There's something about the way Kyle Richards talks about her marriage that makes you feel like you're watching someone try to hold water in their hands. She keeps talking. She keeps explaining. And the more she explains, the more the water slips through. At the season 15 reunion, Kyle sat across from Andy Cohen and said something that genuinely stopped people mid-scroll. She said, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, that if she and Mauricio had just packed up, moved to Vail, let him become a ski instructor and let her stay home with the kids, they'd still be together. So, together. And I just sat with that for a minute. Because on one level, I understand the impulse. There's something almost poetic about it, right? The fantasy of a simpler life, away from the Beverly Hills machine, away from the cameras, away from the relentless pressure of performing a perfect marriage for an audience that already suspects something is broken. I get it. Many of us have had that, what if we'd just gone somewhere quieter, thought about something important we lost. But Kyle isn't talking about a relationship that quietly drifted apart because life got too loud. She's talking about a marriage that allegedly fractured under the weight of rumors, serious ones, about infidelity. And no matter how many times those allegations were denied, the whisper never really went away. It just changed shape. So when Kyle suggests that geography was the missing variable, that Vail was the answer, a lot of people online reacted the way you'd expect, with that particular combination of disbelief and secondhand exhaustion that only Bravo can produce in a person. The comments were telling. One of the most shared reactions was essentially, if he wanted to stray, he would have found a way to stray in Colorado too. A ski lodge has locker rooms. Mountain towns have bars. The problem, many viewers felt, wasn't the zip code. It was something more fundamental, something that a change of scenery genuinely cannot fix. And that observation is worth sitting with, not to pile on Kyle, but because she's a smart woman. She's been in this industry long enough to understand how narrative works. She knows how editing works. She knows how reunion conversations work. So when she offers up this, we should have moved to Vail theory, you have to wonder, is this something she actually believes? Or is this the story that's easiest to live with? There's a psychological concept sometimes called the alternative timeline, the way our minds construct imaginary versions of our lives where one decision changed everything. It's a very human coping mechanism. If I had done X, why wouldn't have happened? It creates the illusion of control over events that may have actually been out of our hands entirely. And sometimes, it protects us from having to sit with a harder truth. Watching Kyle at this reunion, I kept thinking about that. Because the Vail theory puts the responsibility on circumstance. On California. On social media. On the machine. Not on any person. Not on any choice. Not on anything that would require a more uncomfortable conversation at a reunion table. Which brings us to the social media comment, because this is where even some of Kyle's more sympathetic viewers started tilting their heads. Kyle said, and she said it with genuine feeling, that social media is the worst thing for relationships, especially for people in the public eye. She talked about how nothing felt sacred, how they were always being watched, how that visibility created pressure that ate away at something private and real. And okay, she's not wrong actually. The performance of a marriage on reality television is genuinely corrosive in ways we probably don't fully understand yet. The way Kyle and Mauricio's relationship was packaged and presented and consumed by millions of people over the years, that is a strange and specific kind of pressure that most couples never face. But here's the thing. And fans online were quick to point this out. Kyle Richards' entire livelihood is built on that visibility. Her brand deals, her Halloween costumes that sell out instantly, her presence on social media, her relevance as a pop culture figure, all of it runs through the very machine she's now describing as toxic to intimacy. You cannot simultaneously build an empire on public attention and then argue that public attention is what destroyed your most personal relationship. Or rather, you can argue it, but people are going to notice the contradiction. That's not me being harsh. That's just the math of the situation. What's more interesting to me, psychologically, is what Kyle might actually be processing underneath these statements. Because I don't think she's being deliberately dishonest. I think she's doing what a lot of people do when a long marriage falls apart in a public and confusing and emotionally complicated way. She's searching for a version of events that makes sense, that gives her somewhere to put the grief. Nearly 30 years. For daughters. A life built together in one of the most scrutinized zip codes in America. That doesn't just dissolve without leaving something behind. And whatever is happening between Kyle and Mauricio right now, and let's be clear, they have not legally separated, which itself is a whole other conversation. It clearly has not resolved into something clean and finished. It's still messy. Still unresolved. Still life. Some viewers have interpreted the lack of legal separation as genuine hope. Like maybe they're both just waiting for something to shift. Others see it as two people who have built such a deeply intertwined financial and family life that untangling it feels impossible, so they just don't. They exist in this strange in-between space where the marriage is technically intact but the life they shared has already changed shape completely. And then there's the Morgan Wade chapter of this story, which Kyle has addressed but never quite fully addressed, if you know what I mean. The friendship, the photos, the way the whole thing played out publicly, it added another layer of complexity to an already complicated narrative. Some fans felt like Kyle was being given grace and space to explore something about herself. Others felt like the story kept shifting in ways that made it hard to track what was actually real. What I find genuinely interesting is that Kyle has stayed on the show through all of it. She didn't retreat. She didn't step back. She sat at that reunion table and answered questions and offered up theories about ski instructors and Colorado mountain air and social media being the enemy of love. That takes something. Whatever you think of her choices or her explanations, that level of emotional exposure, whether by choice or by contract, is not nothing. The question that keeps nagging at me, and I think at a lot of Bravo viewers, is whether Kyle herself believes there's a path back. Not the Vail fantasy version. The real version. Whatever that looks like now, after everything. Because the way she talks about Mauricio, even now, doesn't sound like someone who has fully let go. There's something still tender in it. Something still unresolved. And maybe that's where the "what if we'd moved" story comes from, not from delusion, but from grief. From the kind of love that hasn't quite figured out what to do with itself now that the structure it lived inside has cracked. Or maybe I'm being too generous. Maybe the simpler read is that Kyle Richards is a woman who has spent 3 decades as a public figure and has learned, better than almost anyone, how to give an answer that sounds like vulnerability without fully opening the door. I genuinely don't know. And I think that ambiguity, that genuine not knowing, is part of what keeps people watching. Will they divorce? Will they quietly stay married forever, living parallel lives that occasionally intersect at family dinners and Bravo reunion tapings? Could something actually bring them back to each other in a real way? None of us know. Including, I suspect, Kyle. Drop your take in the comments. Do you think there's any version of this where they actually reconcile, genuinely, not just for the cameras? Or has too much been said, too much been seen, too much been made public for any of it to heal quietly? I want to know what you think. And if you haven't already, stream Rob on Peacock, because this season has been a lot, and it's not done with us yet.